In this segment, we're going to continue with our topic of individual behavior as it relates to leadership. We're all familiar with the term IQ in terms of intelligence quotient, but there's also another type of intelligence that people have recognized called emotional intelligence, or EQ. The idea is that it deals with the softer skills that people might have. Do you show empathy for people? Do you have social skills? Are you able to have good interpersonal skills? We've talked about that. So when we talk about people in the leadership, you might want to consider, does a person have good EQ? Now, when we talk about how people behave and their attitudes, there's three kinds of components. And these are good terms to know. One is affective. Affective attitude or behavior or reaction is one about how you feel. For example, you could go into a restaurant and you could say, I really don't like that soup. That's an affective reaction or behavior. Cognitive deals with knowledge, understanding. Facts, if you will. Cognitive response might be, that soup is very expensive, or that soup costs $2.55. That's a knowledge kind of based. And you could have an attitude saying that's the worst soup I ever ate. It's not just I don't like it. Intentional doesn't mean that it's done on purpose. Intentional in this context means what do you intend to do? So you might say, I'm not going to buy that. I'm not going to go to the movies, something like that. And you can put all three of these together. I don't like that soup. It was cold, and I'm never going to eat here again. So that kind of response shows all three of those attitudes and behaviors. We'll continue with the attitudes and behaviors. Again, we're looking at the individual now when we talk about management. Cognitive dissonance. And that's one of my favorite terms, and I don't know why, but and if it's one of my favorite terms, you can pretty much guess you're going to see it again. But this is when, remember, cognitive is knowledge. Cognitive dissonance is when two pieces of knowledge conflict. Someone will say, oh, the world is going to end tomorrow, and you find out it doesn't end. Oops, I know it didn't end, but I knew it was going to end. One of those facts is not going to be right. And we try to get rid of cognitive dissonance. Somebody only buys the cheapest parts. Right? I think I have the cheapest parts, but now they're buying from somebody else. Well, how can that be? If I have the cheapest parts and they only buy the cheapest parts, one of those facts isn't right. I have cognitive dissonance, and I have to resolve that. Positive affectivity is a fancy way of saying the glass is half full. You have a positive attitude. Negative affectivity is the reverse. You have a negative attitude. It's just a more college-educated way to express those terms. As you can tell, there's a lot of psychology that goes into leadership, and we're going to get into more of that when we get into motivational theories. But selective perception is a bias that we have when we look at the world. I think of that when I work in the yard. I'm looking for a certain type of weed, maybe. I'm going to weed something out, and I get done, and I look, and I go, oh, but I missed all these other weeds. I didn't realize it because I was only looking for one type of thing. Same thing might happen at work. You might have a selective bias for people that are technically strong, but maybe they aren't good at presenting. Maybe they have poor interpersonal skills. Or maybe somebody's good at selling, but they're not good at helping their peers out and do other work and closing the sale. Stereotype is where you label one person based upon an attribute. They're a salesperson. Oh, they must be outgoing. They really like this. Or that person's really a techie. They're not going to want to go party or whatever. Attribution is kind of an interesting thing. Attribution is when you name a cause for a particular behavior. Oh, Susan left because she's always got to take care of her kids or something like that. Maybe Susan left because she had to make a call on a customer. Maybe she had to go to the hospital. But we attribute a cause to behavior without really knowing what it is. Halo effect. Halo effect is when one attribute kind of creates a halo. I hate to use the term in the definition, but creates an aura about them that covers their other behaviors. So for example, we might really like John because John does a great job with Excel. Therefore, we think John walks on water. But John may have very poor interpersonal skills. He may not have any good presentation skills or communication skills. He may not have any good decision-making skills. But we take that one attribute and extend it to other kinds of behavior. Now, another way to categorize people, and we're talking about individuals again, is to talk about type A and type B personalities. Type A personalities are very competitive, and they have a high sense of immediacy and urgency, where type B is more laid back. I had a boss. He would get in your face. He'd get beet red, just beet red. You could hear his teeth grinding as he was talking to you. He was definitely a type A personality. And then there are type Bs that are a lot more laid back. Doesn't mean anyone is more effective than the other, and it really depends upon the situation in terms of the types. And obviously extremes on either end are not a good thing. All right, this covers the individual personality types. Make sure you also look at the business presentation video, because your next assignment will require you to create a business presentation.